Welcome to Overtime Stories. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe and join the journey. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and every bit of support truly means a lot.
The Cleveland Browns organization was rocked to its core when news leaked that owner Jimmy Haslam allegedly exploded behind closed doors after discovering Kevin Stefanski had quietly explored trading Shedeur Sanders. As sources claim, the revelation didn't come through the usual front office channels, which made the situation even worse. This wasn't a routine football disagreement. This was a power clash. Haslam reportedly viewed the move as crossing a hard line, especially given how publicly the franchise has positioned Sanders as part of its long-term vision. Behind the scenes, tension had already been simmering after recent losses, questionable play calling, and growing locker room frustration. The attempted trade reportedly poured gasoline on that fire. According to insiders, Haslam felt blindsided, not just by the idea itself, but by the secrecy surrounding it. Owners don't like surprises, especially when it involves a young quarterback tied to branding, future revenue, and franchise direction. As sources claim, Haslam questioned why a coach under increasing scrutiny would attempt to move a player still viewed internally as a developmental asset. That question quickly turned into anger. Voices were raised. Meetings were cut short. The atmosphere reportedly went from tense to toxic in minutes. Stefanski's defenders argued that the move was exploratory, not final, but that explanation didn't land. To ownership, exploring the trade signaled doubt. Doubt at quarterback is contagious. It spreads through the locker room, through fans, and through the league. Haslam reportedly made it clear that internal chaos would not be tolerated, especially during a stretch where stability is already fragile. The confrontation wasn't about ego. It was about control. Who sets the vision? Who protects the future?
Sorry to interrupt, but hit that subscribe button real quick. It really helps the channel grow.
The Browns have lived through quarterback instability for decades, and ownership believes it cannot afford another reset disguised as strategy. The attempted trade, as described by sources, felt like regression. Word of the blow-up traveled fast inside the building. Staffers noticed the shift immediately. Meetings grew quieter. Conversations shortened. Players felt it without being told. When ownership intervenes directly, everyone feels the tremor. Fans began connecting dots as rumors surfaced online, demanding answers about why Sanders' name was even floating in trade talks. That pressure only intensified the moment. The Browns weren't just dealing with a football decision. They were dealing with a credibility crisis that threatened to spiral if not contained quickly. As the fallout continued, more details emerged about why the attempted Shedeur Sanders trade struck such a nerve with Jimmy Haslam. As sources claim, ownership has spent months positioning Sanders as a stabilizing piece amid organizational uncertainty, not a bargaining chip. From marketing initiatives to internal messaging, Sanders was treated as a player worth investing in, not flipping. Stefanski's reported move clashed directly with that approach. That clash exposed a deeper issue: misalignment between coaching philosophy and ownership vision. Insiders say Haslam's frustration wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. He reportedly questioned whether Stefanski truly believed in the quarterback room or was simply trying to buy time by reshuffling pieces. That's dangerous thinking for an owner who values continuity. The Browns have paid the price before for short-term thinking, and Haslam has made it clear he doesn't want history repeating. The locker room reaction only amplified concerns. As sources claim, players quickly caught wind of the trade chatter, and confusion followed. Teammates began questioning direction, wondering who was truly safe and who might be next. That uncertainty erodes trust fast. Veterans don't like surprises. Young players don't like instability. Leaders don't like mixed messages. Stefanski's move, even if exploratory, created all three. Analysts around the league picked up on the situation, framing it as another example of Cleveland struggling to align leadership during critical moments. That framing hurts. Perception becomes reality in the NFL. Haslam reportedly warned Stefanski that decisions made in isolation could cost more than games. They could cost confidence. The warning wasn't subtle. It was direct. The Browns are already navigating scrutiny over recent performances, and this internal conflict adds another layer of pressure. Fans want clarity. Players want direction. Ownership wants alignment. As sources claim, Haslam believes protecting the quarterback room is foundational, especially when the franchise is under the microscope. The attempted trade challenged that foundation. Whether Stefanski intended it or not, the message was received loudly. The Browns now find themselves in a moment where every move is magnified. Trust has to be rebuilt. Communication has to be tightened, and leadership has to decide whether it's rowing in the same direction or pulling apart. This saga isn't just about a trade that didn't happen. It's about whether Cleveland can finally break its cycle of internal conflict before it costs them again. The situation escalated even further once word of Jimmy Haslam's reaction began circulating beyond the executive level because moments like this don't stay private in NFL buildings. As sources claim, the confrontation sent a clear signal throughout the Browns facility that patience had officially run thin. Coaches tightened up. Assistants stopped freelancing opinions. Front office voices grew more guarded. When ownership draws a line, everyone suddenly remembers where they stand. The attempted Shedeur Sanders trade wasn't just seen as a football move anymore. It was viewed as a test of authority. Haslam reportedly felt Stefanski had stepped outside his lane at the worst possible time. The Browns were already dealing with criticism over on-field identity, inconsistent adjustments, and growing media pressure. Adding quarterback uncertainty into that mix was seen as reckless. Sources say Haslam stressed that the quarterback position isn't just another roster slot in Cleveland. It's symbolic. It represents hope, direction, and long-term stability. Undermining that symbol, especially without full alignment, was unacceptable. Inside the locker room, the mood reportedly shifted from confusion to quiet frustration. Players don't need details to sense instability. They feel it in body language, tone, and silence. Veterans began questioning whether the organization truly had a plan or was reacting week to week. Younger players worried about development paths suddenly changing. That's how locker rooms fracture. Analysts noted that Cleveland's recent history made this even more volatile. The Browns have burned through quarterbacks, coaches, and systems at a pace that still haunts the franchise. Haslam knows that reputation hasn't fully faded. That's why he reacted so strongly. The attempted trade felt like reopening old wounds. Around the league, executives whispered that Cleveland looked divided again. That perception damages leverage in every negotiation, from trades to free agency. As sources claim, Haslam's message to Stefanski wasn't just about Sanders. It was about discipline, about understanding the weight of decisions made in secrecy. The NFL is ruthless with teams that appear unstable. Haslam doesn't want Cleveland back in that category. The confrontation may have stopped the trade, but it didn't stop the scrutiny. Stefanski is now coaching under a brighter spotlight, where every decision feeds a larger narrative. The Browns didn't just dodge a transaction, they exposed a fault line. And fault lines don't disappear. They either get reinforced or they break under pressure. Now the Browns face the hardest part of this entire ordeal, repairing trust while the season continues to move forward. As sources claim, ownership is pushing for visible alignment, not quiet assurances. That means clearer messaging, tighter decision-making, and fewer surprises. The attempted Shedeur Sanders trade changed the internal timeline. What might have been addressed in off-season evaluations is now being watched in real time. Stefanski reportedly understands the gravity. Coaches close to the situation say he's been more deliberate, more communicative, and more cautious since the blow-up. That alone confirms how serious the warning was. But intent doesn't erase impact. Players are still processing what it means. Some reportedly view Haslam's intervention as protection for the locker room. Others see it as evidence of deeper dysfunction. Both interpretations create tension. Analysts emphasize that this is the kind of moment that defines organizational culture. Strong franchises close ranks and clarify rules. Weak ones spiral into finger-pointing. Cleveland is at a crossroads. The quarterback room, now under a microscope, must be handled with extreme care. Confidence is fragile. Development requires trust. Trust requires consistency. As sources claim, Haslam is determined not to let short-term pressure derail long-term plans. That determination puts pressure squarely on Stefanski to prove alignment through action. Wins would quiet everything. Losses would amplify it. Fans are watching closely, demanding transparency and accountability. Media narratives are sharpening. Every quote is dissected. Every lineup decision becomes symbolic. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders anymore. It's about who ultimately controls Cleveland's football identity. Owners rarely intervene this directly unless they feel the foundation is shaking. Haslam's explosion wasn't emotional theater. It was a declaration of boundaries. The Browns can still recover from this moment, but recovery requires humility, communication, and results. The league has seen teams survive internal clashes before, but only when leadership aligns quickly. Cleveland's margin for error is thin. This saga hasn't ended. It's entered the phase where actions outweigh words, and silence speaks louder than statements. What happens next will tell everyone whether this was a wake-up call or the beginning of another long chapter of dysfunction. This final stage of the scandal is where everything converges, because now the Browns are operating under full exposure with no room to hide. As sources claim, Jimmy Haslam's reaction didn't just stop a trade attempt, it reset the power balance inside the organization. When ownership steps in this directly, it sends a message that future decisions will be judged not just on football logic, but on alignment, transparency, and long-term vision. Stefanski is now coaching with an invisible clock ticking louder than ever. Every move involving Shedeur Sanders carries extra weight. Play calling decisions, practice reps, public comments, all of it is being read as either confirmation of belief or quiet resistance. That's a dangerous place for any head coach. Players sense it too. The locker room reportedly understands that Sanders is now more than a quarterback. He's a symbol of where the franchise is headed. Mishandling that symbol again would ignite another internal fire. As sources claim, Haslam wants stability above all else right now. Stability in messaging, stability in leadership, and stability in quarterback development. That doesn't mean patience without limits. It means clarity without chaos. The Browns have already lived through eras where confusion became normal. Ownership is determined not to repeat that cycle. Around the league, executives are watching how Cleveland responds because this moment will shape how the franchise is viewed moving forward. Teams with strong leadership weather internal storms quietly. Teams without it become cautionary tales. The attempted trade put Cleveland on the edge of that distinction. Stefanski still has a chance to regain trust, but the margin is razor thin. Wins would help, but alignment matters just as much. Fans are restless. They've seen this movie before. Promising talent, mixed messages, and internal tension usually end the same way. That's why Haslam's reaction mattered so much. It wasn't about emotion. It was about stopping a familiar pattern before it took hold again. The Browns can still turn this into a course correction instead of a collapse, but only if leadership speaks with one voice and acts with one purpose. This scandal exposed fractures, but it also created an opportunity to finally address them head-on. The next stretch of games will reveal whether Cleveland learned from this moment or merely delayed the fallout. The league is watching, the locker room is watching, the fans are watching. And when scrutiny reaches this level, only truth survives. Like the video, subscribe for more deep breakdowns, and stay locked in as this Browns saga continues to unfold with real consequences.